so glad you came back.
I know, thank you. Are we sitting on the floor or the couch this time?
Yeah, well, whichever you choose. I don't even know where to begin this conversation because I have so many thoughts and feelings. So when I'm reading the beginning, I'm reading about your mom, Lisa Marie, and your grandfather, Elvis. Mm-hmm. Now, I think some reason I've always felt this bizarre cosmic connection to you, which I dared to mention to you, and I had a real I was very nervous about.
I think it's because we look related. I think you could be a Presley or we could be Barrymores, but there's something going on.
There's something going on.
And my sister looks like you. My little sister, actually, it's crazy. I mean, when she was young, I always told her that you look like Drew Barrymore.
When did this hit you? Because people used to tell me that I looked like your mom and then also you, and I thought, oh, no, they're too amazing looking. Why are you saying that?
It's weird because I don't see it like when I'm looking at your face, but I like, as a teenager, a lot of times people would say, do you know you look like Drew Barrymore? And I still don't really see it. I think my mom sort of looked like you. Like, there's something going on.
But there's my ex-boyfriend, Fabrizio Moretti, who's the most incredible artist, used to call me Elvis because when he would draw my lips, he would say, oh, it's the Cupid's bow.
Oh, okay, maybe it's the lips then.
Your family is famous for the Cupid's bow. But I didn't know your mom, and I didn't know behaviorally that there was so much alignment.
Okay.
So when we get into the book where your mom and Lisa Marie, her mom, are now, Elvis is gone, Lisa Marie and, Priscilla are now a 9-year-old and a very young mother.
Yeah.
This is where I slipped into, oh my God, this is such a universal story, which is your mom is out there being wild, can't be tamed, and mad at her mom, and her mom doesn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. That was my life experience.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think a lot of the themes in the book are very human things, like mothers and daughters and grief and addiction and there are these very universal themes, and I think that that mothers and daughters is kind of a through line through the book. And, I think she was a little bit lost and trying to figure out her direction after she lost her father. And of course, she says it in the book, she was definitely difficult on my grandmother. I think that was a lot of her childhood and her teen years. I think really until she met my father and kind of decided to have children and get married.
And one of the things that really, in your tone, and I'm always watching your tone, there is a lot of forgiveness. Mm. And that is something that I don't know if one realizes what a burden it is on themselves.
I am a very forgiving person.
Clearly.
I don't really know. I think I just was born that way. And it's something my mom would always kind of, she wrote a song actually called Forgiving, that was basically her saying, like, I wish I could be like that. And I do think she carried a lot of sort of, pain and resentment for different things. But she had such a different experience than I did, and a much more like intense childhood. And she was in, the spotlight in this way that was kind of very unique. And I think that for me, like, the setting is not relatable, but the stories are, and the relationships within the book are, and the themes are, like, again, mothers and daughters and grief and addiction and falling in love and getting married and divorce. Like, they're all very normal things, just that the setting is, unique.
So when she meets your dad, who is this grounding force, it seems, in all of your lives,
yeah.
Do you think cosmically your mother knew that this is the man I must have children with, or a child with, and she did end up having you and your brother because somehow cosmically she knew he might always be there?
She did. She said that kind of my whole life. She said, I knew that if I had children with your father that it would always be okay, which is such a, unique situation, and the way that they were and the way that they divorced for, now they're sort of like conscious uncoupling and like that kind of a thing. But at the time, I don't think that was as common, and they kind of did that.
And they stayed together, and they lived together.
Yeah, they were divorced, they lived together. He lived with us when my mom was remarried and had other boyfriends. He was in her wedding party, and then they lived together when she died as friends. My mom had a lot of trust issues throughout her life because of the situation she was in, and for whatever reason, my dad, that never came up with him. There was some kind of deeper connection.
When you hear the word trust, are you triggered at all? I am.
No, I'm not triggered by the word.
I think karmically you must have been born with a very good set of judgment, which I don't believe I was born with. I think it's something I worked my whole life on.
Yeah.
And I feel like you were given that gift karmically in the cosmos of like something grounded and observant and settled, because you have this way about you that is calm. Am I completely off base about this?
I think I am. I think some of those things are true. Yeah. I think that I also grew up, you did too, but in a situation where I would see a lot of agendas and things, and I think that my approach was just maybe different, whereas I just kind of expected it and didn't really, I don't know, I saw what was around sort of fame and power, and it just sort of was what it was to me, and I
have hardly any famous friends.
I was also going to say I was really lucky. I had like a lot of really great friends growing up, girlfriends who have been my friends since I was 3 and 4. And
me too, like lifelongers.
Yeah.
And there is so many things that are so relatable in this book that were so universal that really surprised me. Like, you don't need to be from a famous family to have gone through a lot of the things everybody's going through in this book. And there's so much fun. And that it's like you're laughing now. And that gives me permission, because as a mom, I get torn about what's fun and funny when you become a parent. Like, now looking back on it, I felt so self-critical when I gave birth to my daughters, because I was looking back at my own life through the judgment of, I think, other people's eyes. I think I picked someone to have kids with that I knew came from an incredibly stable family. I got excited by something that I felt was more traditional. And then I really beat myself up that I was so untraditional.
Yeah. I think that's really common with mothers particularly,
How so?
I think that there's an idea of sort of what you're supposed to be as a mother, whereas fathers sort of get left, they can do the bare minimum and they're fine,
And creative license to be who they are, but you're right.
And I think that when you're a mother, you kind of, especially if you're sort of like an artist or a creative person, I think that it's, I don't know, like those are the things that kind of give you life. And I think that you kind of assume that, for me, I can only speak for myself. Like, I guess when I had my child, I kind of had this idea of what motherhood would be like, and then I would be at home wanting to bake cookies all day, and and sit at home all day, and then that was really hard for me. I realized that I need to write and to perform and to do all these other things, and I was really hard on myself for that.
My daughter turned to me in bed last night. She's 12, and she said, "Mom, I really, really want to act." And I wanted so bad to indulge her in that moment and give her what she wanted and needed, but I went to fear because I am so scared for my kids to have experiences like I had. There's this voice of
mom guilt.
Make it safe, make it really normal and full of traditions and really buckled down and so...
I really relate to this, by the way, because my life was so wild that I really wanted like suburbia and like cookies and like things to be very normal for my kids. And I'm not that kind of person, you know?
When you had your daughter Tupelo, may I ask, and I don't know much about your husband, and when you met him, what occurred for you to feel like?
I think, well, I had my mom in my head always saying when I met, you know, when I was with your father, I knew that I was meant to have kids with him. So I think I had this idea that I would know when it was the person that I was going to have kids with, and I did have that experience.
You did?
I did. We were barely dating, and we were on a road trip, and I had a moment where I kind of went, you know, I think I'm going to have children with this person, and it felt like, I don't know, it was sort of weird cosmic thing, and that she also had with my dad, which was very cool.
And his name is Ben.
That's right.
Which is your brother's name.
Well, it's weirder because his sister's name is Storm. My brother was Ben Storm. I know. And his brother's name is Danny, which is my dad's name.
Oh my God. Seeing how your mother was so, I mean, she knew, it seemed, when your grandfather was going to pass away. She felt a premonition. Now, was that the fear of, I have limited time with this person, or was it a psychic connection?
I'm apprehensive to say this because the headlines can be crazy, but she did have like a thing where she felt connected to, she was very intuitive, and in a way that wasn't like woo-woo or hip, you know, like in the clouds. It was very kind of grounded and matter of fact, and it was pretty incredible.
When you were on the airplane and you're flying and you're trying to get to your mom and you're trying to text your dad, did you know in that moment that your mom was departing the earth?
I did, yeah. I just had a feeling. I don't know. There had been incidents before, you know, health incidents, and I didn't have the same feeling. Like I don't know. I felt this sort of surrender in the moment, and yeah, I just had a little bit of a sense.
And you even asked your dad, "Is she gone?"
Yeah.
And then he replies, "Yes."
Yeah.
2 or 3 minutes ago.
That's right. Yeah.
I think that with this book, you really took your own narrative and allowed for so much joy to come in also, and all of that playfulness.
I'm glad you're saying this because there has been a few things that I've read that have kind of said this is like the saddest thing I've ever read in my life, and I like the experience of living it wasn't that. I think that the end of my brother's life and my mother's, of course, was devastating, but so much of our lives was so fun and joyful and funny, and we went through it, you know, as if we were living in a wildly colorful comedy. So I think that I'm glad that some of that came through.
Oh no, this is one of the best books I've ever read in my life, and I managed to not cry throughout the whole book until you and your brother go on this adventure in Japan, and he keeps commenting on your yellow shoes. And they called them the bananas or something?
The banana shoes.
The banana shoes. And then when you put those shoes in his casket, that was when I broke. And I couldn't stop crying for the rest of the book.
Oh.
And I think it is such a celebration of life. And no one is allowed to tell us what our experiences are. We must tell people what our life was like. And no one can take that away from us. We are the pens who write our stories. And the way you are makes me know more and more that I have to overcome what other people thought or what I thought they thought in my life, because I loved my life growing up. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it was...
I think that's the... Good.
And you give such license to people to own their experiences.
I think that was something that was really important for me is at the end, I sort of say, like, I know that all of us would have done it again, you know, despite all of the difficult moments. And I think that that's very true in our experience and important.
All right, Riley Keough, from zero to the great